My beloved child, I speak to you. You are not merely someone who escaped a violent wind. You are the one who was carried through it in my hands. Even when you yourself cannot remember how many times you almost let go. There were nights when you sat there and whispered to yourself, I'm really strong. I've made it through so much. And I smiled, not to deny your effort, but to gently open a different angle for you to see. Every time you thought you rose by your own strength was the very moment I was slipping my hand beneath your back so you would not hit the ground. Do you remember the moments so heavy that you no longer cared to pray? When all you could do was stare at the ceiling and breathe in panic, you thought you were silent. But I heard that wordless cry with clarity, and I placed my hand upon your wrist to steady a heartbeat that felt like it might burst. When you sat alone in that cramped room, gripping the edge of your blanket until your knuckles turned white, convinced that if you loosened your hold, you would slide all the way to the bottom right then. An invisible hand closed around the inner part of your wrist where no one else could touch. You only felt barely, not breaking. But I saw how I pulled you back from the edge, inch by inch, moment by moment. You could not see my hand the way you see another person's, but you sensed it in the fact that you did not collapse, even when every piece of evidence said you would. You called it pushing through, gritting your teeth, but I called it, I held you. If you are still here today, breathing, reading these words even though the wounds are not fully healed, it is not because the storm was gentle, but because my hand never let go of your wrist when the waves tried to take you. I want you to know this. Your soul did not row alone in the dark. It was anchored by my invisible fingers wrapped around your trembling wrist. I remember every moment you whispered, I can't take this anymore. Though your lips made no sound and only shattered thoughts moved through your mind. In those moments, I did not stand at a distance to see whether you would rise or collapse. I stepped close and wrapped my hand around your wrist like a father steadying a child slipping on the staircase. There were evenings when you sat in your car, watching the streetlights blur through your tears, wondering why you still had to live through such exhaustion. You believed that if you let go of the steering wheel, your life would fall apart, and you thought fear was what kept you from doing it, but in truth, it was my arm encircling your wrist, keeping it from flying away from the work I was still doing. You told friends, it's over. I don't even know how I made it through. But I know very clearly how every time the waves crashed over you, I held you at the edge so you would not sink completely. You believe you survived through resilience. But there were stretches where resilience alone would have snapped. It was my grace, like a hand tightening around a trembling wrist, that kept you from slipping off the rope. You thought you had let go many times, letting go of prayers, of hope, of plans, but you never completely released your grasp. Because on the other side, I never released mine. What moves me is not that you were never weak, but that even when you were too weak to pray, your soul still left its wrist open enough for me to hold. You may not recall the details, but if you look back, you will see a red thread running through your darkest seasons, the imprint of my hand on your wrist. I did not hold you the way someone holds a precious object on a shelf. I held you the way one pulls a person sliding into a river with urgency, with tenderness, with the determined love that refuses to lose what it cherishes. You lived many years feeling as though you had only a sliver of strength left, like someone clinging to the last ledge after a flood. You told yourself, as long as I haven't fallen, I'm fine, without realizing that the reason you had not fallen was not the strength of your grip but the strength of mine. There were days when you stepped through your door smiling, talking as though everything was normal, while inside you thought, if one more thing happens, I won't survive it. I heard that thought as a prayer without words. In that very moment, I placed my hand again on your wrist to say, I am here. I will not let you be swept further away. You saw yourself as a soldier returning from the battlefield with scars and tired eyes. But I saw more a soul carried through battles it never understood, supported at every beat so that today it could still recognize peace. You believed you fought alone, but the spiritual reality was entirely different. Every step you took on a cold floor was a step I took with you beside it. Every time you turned your face into a pillow with no words left, I still held your wrist like someone guarding a pulse. You prefer to recount your journey with phrases like, I pushed through. I stood back up. But I want to tell you your story in heaven's language. I held. I lifted. I never let go of your wrist even when you thought you had slipped from my hand. You believed the old narrative that you survived the storm alone, but if you let me retell it, you will see a different version, truer, gentler, yet far more powerful. It is the story of a child lifted from deep waters at the final moment. You are not an emblem of self-made strength. You are living proof of a hand that refused to give up on a trembling wrist. I know there were nights when you lay curled on your side, facing the wall so others would not see the tears. You wrapped your arms around yourself, believing no one else was there to hold you. And you concluded, no one keeps me but me. But in a depth your eyes could not perceive, I sat beside your bed with my invisible hand around your small wrist, not forcing you to be strong, only holding you so you would not sink further. You once said, I got through because I'm used to it, as though your soul were a tree hardened by storms. But I saw clearly how many times one stronger gust could have snapped a branch. It was I who shielded, lifted, and placed my hand over the very place most likely to break. You thought the final moments were when you pulled yourself together by sheer will. But for me, the final moment was when I tightened my hold firmer, steadier, more decisive, so that no wave could steal you from the current of grace. There were times you felt lost in a river of busy people, each absorbed in their own story, no one noticing how weary your steps had become. But I counted every step, and at each unstable one, I touched your wrist as a quiet signal, I am still here. You may have believed. No one holds me together but myself. But that belief itself was a burden. The truth I invite you into is this from beginning to end. It has been my hand that formed the knot around your wrist. When you open your heart to this reality, not to diminish your effort, but to give your soul permission to breathe, you will begin to retell your life with a new beauty, not merely as the story of someone still standing, but as the story of a hand that never let go. I speak to you, you have grown accustomed to looking back at the storms as chapters of your life where you stood alone, seasons where you could not rely on anyone, dared not trouble anyone. And so, in your mind, a map was formed. Here is where I carried everything by myself. But the map I hold looks very different. On it, every dark region bears the imprint of my hand wrapped around your wrist. When you revisit old memories sitting in the hospital, on a night bus, in a damp, rented room, in an office thick with pressure, you label them alone. I invite you to revisit each scene and add the detail you missed. My hand, quiet and unshowy, but entirely real, holding you back from a collapse you did not see coming. You do not need to deny your effort, your resilience, your resourcefulness. I honor them more than anyone. But I also want you to know that even your resilience was sustained by my breath, my strength, and my hand holding your wrist so it could rise again. You do not know how many times your soul whispered unconsciously, I want to let go. And how many times my hand answered. Not with words, but with action, I have not let you go. That is why, amid all the moments you wanted to leave, to disappear, to be done, you remained, still woven into the story I am writing. When you see this, not to shame yourself for wanting to give up, but to be grateful for being held. Your heart will shift from guarded pride to gentle astonishment. You will realize you did not merely survive, you survived in my hands. And that is a profound difference, surviving alone so you must stay vigilant, or surviving in my hands so you may slowly learn to rest. I speak again. With a clarity meant for your soul to hear, you did not pull yourself out of the depths, you were lifted. You did not swim through the raging waters by your own strength. Your wrist was held, so you would not sink. You did not endure everything alone. You were accompanied far more than you ever realized. This truth does not make you weaker, it makes you free. For when you know you were once held, you dare to believe that your future will also be held. You will no longer live with your arms constantly tense, afraid that the moment you relax, you will be swept away. Instead, you will learn to place your wrist into my hand intentionally, not just be held unconsciously as you have been for so many years. I want you to know that I have never grown weary of holding you. Even in the moments when you grew frustrated with yourself, when you thought you were too weak, too stubborn, or too slow to change, I have remained patient, my hand still around your wrist, because to me, you are not a failed project. You are a child learning to recognize love. When you retell your past in this light, you will slowly release the voice that condemns you. Release the shame you carry over your fractures, and replace it with a gentle confession, I survived in the hands of God. That confession will soften your own heart. It will heal corners you have never dared to touch, for it reminds you that nothing began by your strength, and nothing will end by your strength. You are stepping into a new season where you will not only be kept from drifting but also be led forward. Yet, before I speak to you about leading, I want you to engrave this truth deeply, from beginning to end. Your wrist has rested in my hand, and I have never let go. I say to you, you have become so accustomed to saying I'm fine that you have started to believe it yourself. Yet I look deep within and see an entirely different story. I see a tree standing upright in the yard, its leaves still green, its trunk still fresh, but its roots below have long cracked dry, surviving only on the remnants of moisture trapped in old soil, with no new source flowing in. Each time someone checks on you, you smile, nod, and reply with the familiar lines, "It's normal. It's nothing. I can handle it." And every one of those answers becomes a coat of paint you brush onto the trunk to make it look sturdy, while underneath, the roots gasp for breath. You have mistaken normal for the absence of tears, the absence of panic, the absence of midnight cries for help. But I see another kind of exhaustion, quieter, darker, more dangerous. The exhaustion that arrives when you stop feeling, stop expecting, stop daring to ache, and call that fine. You have begun labeling the days you do not collapse as good days. But I know there are days when not a single drop of life moves inside you, yet you still stamp them with fine, just so no one will ask further. Just so the storms outside will not see you trembling. I see you shrinking into yourself, doing what must be done, meeting what must be met, smiling at the right moments, joking in the right places, yet no roots are receiving water. You are merely reusing the old reserves, old water, old faith, old promises while your soul dries out. You think you are safe because you no longer cry as much, no longer thrash the way you once did. But to me, the moment you have nothing left to say is often the sign that your soul is so depleted it no longer has the strength to name its own wound. I reveal this not to shame you, but to free you from the mask of normal that tightens around your throat each day. For before me, you do not need to pretend to be fine in order to be loved. I remember the mornings when you woke up, stood up, got ready, and walked into the day like a machine set on autopilot, with one sentence looping in your mind: just get through today. That is not living, that is enduring. Yet you still called it fine, because everything on the outside continued to function. No one complained. No one noticed anything strange. I saw the evenings when you scrolled endlessly through your phone, not because you cared to see anything, but because you feared that if you stopped, the room would become too quiet, and that quiet would force you to face the hollow space within. So you kept scrolling, kept distracting yourself, kept making your mind loud so you would not hear your roots crying out for water. What you call normal is merely a locked door meant to hide the trembling of your soul from the storm. But I still see it. I see the slight shaking in your hands when you turn off the lights, the way your heart tightens when someone asks, "Are you okay?" with even a hint of sincerity, because you fear that if you speak truthfully, the tears will not stop. You have believed that silence is strength, that hiding your storm is maturity. But often, "I'm fine" is the most dangerous sentence your soul can utter, because it keeps you from returning to the source, keeps you from allowing me to touch your roots. I do not blame you for learning to survive this way. I am simply showing you gently you are drying out. And I want to give you water, my beloved. You once thought that a normal day was a day without drama, without bad news, without obvious struggle. But I see something different. There are days that appear peaceful, yet drain your soul more than the storm. Because in the storm you still cry out, still recognize your pain, still know you are weak, still know you need me, yet in the days you call fine, you do not allow yourself to need anyone at all. You go to work, go home, do your chores, engage in polite conversations, serve in the church, offer encouragement to others. But when you are alone, you feel hollow. You think, everyone must feel this way. But I tell you no. Your soul was not created to live that dry. The image I intended for you is not a warrior who must always be ready for battle, but a tree planted beside streams of water, evergreen, with roots that never thirst. Yet the way you are living resembles a tree uprooted from the riverbank and placed in a small pot on a balcony, surviving on occasional splashes, and even believing this much is enough. You have lowered your standard of living to the bare minimum as long as you do not break, do not lose your mind, do not fall. You think that is enough. But I did not create you to barely not die. I created you to truly live. When you say, "I'm fine," even to me, that sentence is often not a description but a wall. It says, I do not want to touch that place. I do not want to open that door. I am afraid that if I begin to speak, I will not be able to stop. I understand that fear, and I will not force you to unravel everything in a single day. But I also cannot pretend that your soul is well just because you say it is. I love you too much to collaborate with a collapse disguised as stability. You have been through great storms, those seasons where tears and prayers blended into a single cry, and you saw me answer. So now, when the storm outside has quieted for a while, you think you should be more mature. not trouble God so much. Handle the small things on your own. And so you begin to suppress the wounds that are not large enough to be called disasters, yet sharp enough to wear you down. Each one you swallow, label as not worth mentioning, until one day your soul is filled with unbandaged cuts. You tell others that you still pray regularly, that you still read the Word. But many days those are only movements you repeat to preserve the appearance of a healthy tree, while your roots no longer draw anything real. You touch my word like touching a surface, but you do not let it soak in because soaking requires opening, and opening risks pain. What you call discipline is often only a refined way of surviving without allowing yourself to be touched. I do not despise discipline, but it breaks my heart when I see you use it as a shell to avoid truly being with me. I do not ask you to come to me in a polished state. I want you to come with your real roots, dry roots, cracked roots, weary roots, roots that can no longer believe. Only such roots need water, and I am that water. When I tell you that being fine can be a warning sign, I am not saying you must live in constant crisis. I simply want you to stay awake to a sweet kind of numbness, where you no longer feel the hunger within and therefore stop eating. I reveal this so you may dare to answer differently when I ask, "How have your days been lately?" Not because I do not know, but because the true answer is the door through which water reaches your roots. I want to hear you speak to me not with the worn-out phrase, "I'm fine," but with real words, "I'm tired. I don't know what I'm feeling. I'm moving through life without joy. I no longer look forward to anything. Not so I may judge you, but so I may place my hand exactly there. I want you to look again at the days you labeled normal and admit that many of them were days your soul was so drained it was functioning only by habit. Not to assign blame, but to recognize that you need to be watered again. I say to you, I did not call you merely to stand as a decorative tree in the garden. I called you to be a tree that gives shade, bears fruit, holds seeds, and sends its roots deep into the water source. That cannot happen if you keep sustaining yourself on a few drops left over from the past. From today on, I invite you to lay down the habit of using the word fine as a shield, at least in the secret place with me. Call things by their true names if you are exhausted. Say exhausted. If you are empty, say empty. If you are dry, say dry. I am not afraid of those words. I died and rose again to meet you precisely there. You do not need to keep performing a play called normal before the one who sees every crack in your roots. I am not offended when you speak truthfully. I am glorified when you dare to be honest. When you step out of the robe of "I'm fine" and put on the truth, "I need you." That is when the water begins to flow again. You often look back on the storm seasons with heaviness, as though they were shameful chapters, proof that you were not strong enough, good enough, wise enough. But in my eyes, the storm is not a thief. The storm is a pruner. It does not enter to kill the tree, but to remove the rotten branches, the leaves that still keep their shape but no longer hold life, the parts that, if kept, would slowly drain you. Remember, after a strong wind, people do not run out to see how the tree died. They run out to see how much lighter the tree has become. The dry branches and sick leaves blown away are the first signs of a coming green season. Likewise, what you lost in the storm, a harmful relationship, a role you tried desperately to hold, a plan you believed must succeed at any cost, a dream that no longer fits who you are becoming. These were not things stolen from you. They were things removed from you. The storm was not working against you. It was stripping away what does not belong to the future I am preparing. You look at loss and say, Something was taken from me. But I look and say, I am giving you room. Without room, new roots cannot grow. New shoots cannot rise. And new light cannot enter. Many things you call collapse, I call the clearing of space. When I allow a storm to touch your life, it is not a sign of abandonment. It is a sign of preparation for a stature you did not know you could carry. There were things you once clung to with both hands, people. Work, habits, ways of living, believing that losing them would drop you into a void. But you did not realize that they were the very weights keeping you from rising. The storm came like a strong yet skillful hand, loosening each thing you lacked the courage to release. You saw only broken pieces and stripped branches, but I saw a garden being cleared. When the gusts swept through your soul and carried away pieces you once assumed were essential parts of yourself, you panicked, thinking your identity had been erased. But I have always known what your true core is, and what are merely layers you built to survive. The storm never touches the core. It is powerless against the core. It is precisely because your core is strong that the layers that are not truly you can be blown away. You thought that being stripped, reduced, and emptied was a sign of loss. But I see it as the sign that you are returning closer to what I created in the beginning. The storm does not erase you, it cleans you. Layer by layer, what time and pressure had covered falls away. You may appear to have less, but in truth, you become lighter, truer, and ready for real growth. If you look closely at what the storms have taken, you will notice something. No storm has ever removed anything rooted in me. The people who left when the winds blew were not the ones meant to walk with you far. They were seasonal leaves, beautiful, but not permanent. The doors that closed at your darkest moments were not punishments, they were protections, because what lay behind them would have crushed your soul had you entered then. The opportunities that disappeared the moment you reached for them were not bad luck. They were my way of keeping you from carrying unnecessary weight into your next season. You often say, "Why do you keep taking things from me?" But the truth is, I do not take what belongs to you. I only remove what would cause you to stray later. Just as a gardener knows which branch drains life but bears no fruit, I also know what drains you without producing anything good. I do not cut to hurt you. I cut so you do not slowly die. You see the fallen fragments. I see the freed resources flowing back into what is alive. What I want you to understand with absolute clarity is this: the storm is not a closing chapter, it is an editing chapter. It rearranges the ground of your life, resets the internal structure, and prepares you to carry the goodness I am about to place upon you. You may grieve when you see your old dreams blown away, but not every dream deserves to enter your future. Some dreams were built out of avoidance, out of fear, out of the need to prove something, out of comparison. They were beautiful, but not true. The storm removes them not because they are bad, but because they do not belong to your real soul. What does the storm keep? Only what can withstand wind. Only what has deep roots. Only what belongs to your true purpose. If something is taken by the wind, you can be sure of one thing: it was not a foundation, and you cannot build the future on what is not a foundation. I do not allow storms to touch what I have nailed into your life. Those things stand firm after the winds pass. Everything that falls away simply could not survive the glory I am leading you into. You are learning a hard but beautiful lesson. Loss is not always failure. Sometimes it is heaven's quiet agreement that you were made for something better. When you stand in the wreckage after the storm, looking around and seeing only what was strong enough to remain, I do not want you to look at the scattered debris as evidence of destruction. but as the outline of something new emerging. An experienced gardener does not worry when the storm strips the branches. They know the tree will grow again stronger, more beautiful, more even because it no longer carries the dead limbs that once hindered the flow of life. So it is with you. When the things familiar to you disappear, your soul may panic. But I want you to remember, I do not work to take away. I work to prepare. A storm is never a sign that heaven has rejected you. It is a sign that heaven is reshaping you into a new form. And that new form needs new space. I have already seen the seasons you are about to enter, greater connections, deeper refinement, holier responsibilities, and I know this. You cannot carry into those seasons the weak branches, the old habits, the excess fears, or the burdens you were never called to bear. So the storm comes as a decisive grace, removing whatever no longer fits. You see violent winds, I see a realigning of your shape. And this is the most important thing I want you to remember: a storm never takes back what I have promised. It only destroys what you have built around the promise. When the wind blows through your life, it does not blow against my word. My word is immovable. It blows against the layers you have wrapped around that word: fear, panic, control, overexertion. And you're clinging to people or structures you believed were safe. The storm teaches you to distinguish what was built by me from what was built by the soul's instinct to protect itself. What I build will stand, what fear builds will fall. This is not condemnation. This is liberation. You no longer have to hold everything together to prove you are fine. The storm has done the demanding work of dismantling for you. What remains after the storm is what is true, and I work only with what is true. When you look again through that lens, you will see that the storm did not take you away. It returned you to yourself. You are not eroded. You are refined. You are not diminished. You are being reshaped so that your true value can be brought into the light. There are days when you look at yourself in the mirror and see only someone tired, darkened eyes, slumped shoulders, heavy breath, a mind that feels borrowed, and you conclude, I am too weak. But from heaven's perspective, I see something entirely different. You call yourself weak. I call you someone who has remained standing through battles you did not even know you were fighting. You think you survived by stubbornness, by the habit of gritting your teeth, by the self-reliance you have practiced for years. But I want you to understand the deeper truth. What kept you standing was not defiance, but a faith you have not yet named. That faith is not a shout, not a bold declaration, not a polished ritual. It is a quiet ember hidden beneath the thick ash of exhaustion, yet it has never gone out. Even when you believe you have lost all motivation, I still see that small brightness deep within you, enough for me to call the angels near and say, add oil. This flame is not finished. You may think you are like Gideon of old, the one who called himself the least in my family, the weakest in my tribe, hiding in a winepress to thresh wheat out of fear of the enemy. But even when Gideon disqualified himself in the shadows, I saw him as I see you now, a brave warrior, unaware of the strength he carries. I did not wait for Gideon to become confident before I called him a mighty man of valor. I spoke that truth over him while he was still trembling. And I see you the same way in the nights when your hands shake, in the days when you want to disappear, in the moments when you whisper, I cannot do this anymore. I see the very qualities that make you the one I have chosen. You are not strong because you never fear. You are strong because you fear and still move. You are not steadfast because you never tire. You are steadfast because even when you are too weary to pray, you still do not turn away from me. These things, which you interpret as failure, I see as proof of spiritual dignity. What I want you to understand is this. There is a kind of faith that does not need a name to be real. You think faith must be a bold voice in prayer, a firm grip on every promise, a daily feeling of closeness to God. But in certain seasons, faith is simply waking up and choosing to live one more day when everything tells you to give up. Faith is when you still have enough heart left to breathe. Faith is when you turn your face to the wall in exhaustion but do not resent me. Faith is when you go to church just to sit in stillness, not needing to feel anything. Faith is when you do not understand why the storm continues, yet you still allow me to hold your wrist. These small things, insignificant to you, sound in my ears as loud as the trumpet of heaven's army. Gideon could not see himself, neither can you. You measure yourself by the times you collapsed, but I measure you by the times you stood up even when no one asked you to. You reproach yourself for losing your calm, your hope, your direction. But I look at the moment when you were losing everything and still whispered, "But I still trust God." You may not speak that sentence aloud in prayer, but I hear it through the rhythm of your heart, in the way you continue returning to me after long days. True faith is not the absence of trembling. True faith is what remains when the wind has carried everything else away. And now, I want you to hear this with your whole heart. You did not survive by willpower, but by the strength I placed deep within you from the beginning. A strength that does not boast, does not shout, does not demand recognition. A strength like a lantern flame that no night wind can extinguish because my hand has always been cupped around it. When I say you are strong, I am not offering a compliment, I am speaking a truth you have not yet seen. You are strong because I am in you. You are strong because I did not leave you in the storm. You are strong because your small flame has never been alone. You are strong because my grace has seeped into the places you believed were shattered. You are strong because even when you doubt everything, your soul cannot deny me. What I am doing in this stretch of time is not teaching you pride, but restoring your dignity, the dignity the storm cannot steal. The words of others cannot dull, and you yourself cannot destroy. I want you to lift your head not because of achievement, but because of truth. You have crossed a battlefield without losing your soul. You walked through fire without letting it burn away your tender core. You faced the night without letting it smother the ember inside you. If you do not see yourself as strong, it is not because you are weak. It is because you have lived so long at the front lines that you do not recognize yourself as someone who has returned alive from what should have crushed you. You have often looked at your weaknesses as evidence of failure, those days when you could not rise, the evenings when you collapsed for no reason, the moments when your mind tangled like thread, the places in your heart so thin that a light touch could make them ache. You gather all these moments into a single indictment against yourself and then believe that I am disappointed. But when I look at the same places, I do not see an indictment. I see an open door. You call them weaknesses. I call them the entryways of my presence. You think I can use only the strong parts of you, your discipline, your personality, your gifts, your will, but I often touch you most deeply in the places where you can no longer hold yourself up. I do not avoid your fractures, I step through them. The way light can only enter through the cracks where the wall is no longer sealed. What you see as failure is often the very place I use to soften you, to make you real again, to bring you back to life. Paul once said, "When I am weak, then I am strong." And you used to read that verse as something lofty and difficult to grasp. But I want to bring that truth closer to your own life. When you say, "I can't do this anymore," I hear what you are truly crying out, "Please, do for me the part I can't do." When you say, I don't understand why I am like this. I see your heart slowly releasing its grip on control and letting me lead. When you say, "I'm too weak," I hear a rare kind of surrender that appears only when you stop performing. Your weakness does not push me away, it draws me near. For only when you stop straining to prove yourself can I place my hand on the very place that needs healing. You try to cover the cracks, but I come to pour light into those very openings. For years, you believed strength meant silent endurance, never letting anyone see you tremble. Keeping yourself upright even when your legs were tired. Working, loving, serving, and carrying more than you should just to conceal the parts of your heart that had already grown dry and brittle. But I do not find you in the moments you strain. I find you most clearly when you sit down and release a long breath, admitting you can no longer hold everything together. When you confess your weakness, I do not see failure. I see an invitation, permission to move deeper. The way a potter can reshape clay only when it is no longer hardened. Softness is what you fear. Yet that softness is what makes you the most formidable in my hands. The more you acknowledge your need, the easier it is for me to fill you. The more you recognize you are not self-sufficient, the more room I have to work wonders. Look closely at the places you are most ashamed of, the confusion in your emotions, the sudden waves of panic, the habits you cannot shake, the old fears that keep returning, the fragility that rises when someone loves you sincerely. You want me to avoid those areas and strengthen the other parts instead. But I place my hand precisely where you try to hide, not to wound you, but because your weakest places are the spaces where I can build. The parts you guard too tightly leave me little room, but the parts where you are exhausted, unraveling, and worn thin give me ground on which to lay foundations. Cracks are not architectural flaws, cracks are windows. Light does not pass through unbroken walls, it passes through fractures, and the light I bring into those places does not merely reveal, it heals. You feared your weakness would make me leave, but I do not love you because you are strong. I strengthen the places where you are weak because I love you. When you tremble, I do not demand that you stand firm immediately. I place my hand on your shoulder so you know you are not standing alone. When you lose direction, I do not fault you for what you cannot see. I become the lamp at your feet. When you cannot pray, I do not require perfect words. I hear the rhythm of your heartbeat as intercession. When you feel not good enough, I do not correct you with pressure. I hold you with truth. My power is made perfect in your weakness. Let this truth settle you. You do not need to hide the weak parts for me to love you. Those parts do not diminish you. They make you truer, softer, and therefore nearer to me. You think the goal is to become someone strong with no fractures left. But I desire you to become a vessel of glory, one through whom light passes, shining through every crevice to touch those still hiding their own frailty. You are not called to become untouchable. You are called to become transparent, so that whoever looks at you sees my sustaining hand, not your discipline alone. Where you are weak, I make you strong. Where you crack, I shine. Where you release, I enter. And that is the freedom I long to give you. There are moments when you look back on your journey and see yourself as someone who barely survived, breathless, drained, lucky to still be standing. You think the storm ruined your life, broke what you built, and made you fall behind. But I want you to open your eyes to a greater reality. The storm did not push you into survival mode. The storm brought you to the threshold of renaming. You are not stepping out of the winds with your old identity, your old patterns, your old labels shaped by pain, You are stepping out as someone new, someone called by the name I give, not the name circumstance placed on you. The storm did not come to blur you, it came to reveal you. It did not come to wear you down, it came to reshape you into the form I saw from the beginning. Remember Jacob, the one who wrestled his whole life under a name that never fit. He lived as someone who had to grasp, to fear, to defend, to prove. But one night, in a struggle I allowed, every old layer fell away and his true soul emerged, not a deceiver, but a bearer of promise. I renamed him Israel in the very place he thought his back had broken. The same has happened to you. The storm reached the deepest part of your being, not to call you by shame, but to place a new name on your soul. No longer the one barely surviving, the one always lacking, the one who collapses easily, the wounded one. You are stepping into new names, the bearer of promise, the one who stands, the one I uphold, the carrier of blessing, the one I send. This new name is not built on performance or perfection. It is built on what the storm revealed. Your true identity cannot be extinguished. You thought the storm exposed your weakness, but it exposed your truth. It stripped away the layers you wore to protect yourself, the strong facade, the emotional numbness, the polite laughter, the busy rhythm that kept you from hearing your own heart. When those layers blew away, you panicked, thinking you were left bare. But I saw you returning to the design I breathed into you. Your old identity was built on fear, fear of losing, fear of being abandoned, fear of not being enough, fear of being seen. The new name I give is built on love, love strong enough to stand, love free enough to release what is not yours, love honest enough to live unmasked. And when I rename you, I also reorient you. You no longer walk as someone searching for shelter, but as someone walking toward promise. You no longer flee storms. You begin to recognize that some storms are markers of where my hand is shaping your life. For too long, you have lived like someone merely trying to survive, as if the goal of your existence were simply to make it through another day without collapsing. But I do not let you live on shallow breaths. I am leading you into a life with identity, purpose, and weight. When I touch your identity, I remove not only the labels you gave yourself, but also the labels others placed on you over the years. Too fragile, not good enough, broken at the root, only lovable when trying, only worthy when performing. I peel them off one by one, not by the violence of the storm, but by my presence in it. And I replace them with the words I speak directly to your soul. You belong to me. You are kept. You are called. You are appointed. You are sent. You have a place in my design. A change of name is not merely a change of title, it is a change in how you walk. The old fear that once made you lower your head is replaced by a new name that teaches you to lift it. The self-doubt that once made you shrink back is transformed by a new name that makes you stand tall. The feeling of not belonging anywhere once sent you wandering, but a new name tells you, this is home. You once moved through your days like someone begging for a breath, but your new name teaches you to walk like one who has been given life, everlasting. I have changed the way you see yourself, from burden to beloved, from victim to chosen one, from survivor to one who is sent with purpose, with vision. When you look back at the storm, you will see it did not break you. It broke what was never truly you. It did not weaken you. It revealed the strength I planted at your core. It did not take your future. It cleared away the detours that kept you from seeing the future I am opening. And one day, very soon, you will look back and say, I did not come out of the storm the same. I stepped out with a new name. You will tell your story not with the words. I almost didn't make it, but with the declaration. This was the moment God renamed me. The old name will fall behind like dust, and the new name, the name I myself placed, will rest upon your forehead like anointing oil. I have altered your direction, transformed your identity, and changed the voice that rises from within you. The storm did not end you. The storm returned you to yourself in the truest, strongest, brightest way. And from that new name, a new journey begins. You often imagine that restoration begins with grand movements, a door flinging open, a clear miracle, a person arriving, an outward wonder that changes the inside. Yet in every season I have led you through. My healing always begins with the smallest thing, the one you overlook most easily, breath. Before I change your circumstances, I change your breathing. Before I still the wind around you, I still the wind within you. For without a new rhythm of breath, even miracles become heavy. Without the life I breathe, even blessings turn into burdens. I begin with what you consider the smallest, yet is the foundation of everything, a deep breath, a slow breath, a breath not taken to survive, but to receive. You lived too long with breaths that were short, hurried, tight, compressed, each inhale as if seeking permission, each exhale as if running away. You breathed in fear and breathed out strain, breathed in pressure and breathed out the pretense of strength. And I sat beside you, waiting for the moment your shoulders released even a little, giving me room to breathe life into the places where your chest had long been clenched. When I formed you, I did not begin with shape or promise. I began with breath. I breathed into the nostrils of the human, and he became a living soul. Breath is the beginning of life, and new breath is always the beginning of restoration. You believe miracles start with an open door, but in my world, miracles begin when your breathing no longer trembles. I restore you not with thunder but with a whisper, not through disruptive events, but through the return of steady breath, not through loud transformations, but through a quiet warmth rising from within. Each time you breathe deeply and feel even slightly lighter, it is not coincidence, it is my hand upon your chest, resetting the rhythm, softening what has been tense, calling life back from where it recoiled. My healing does not rush, does not force. It arrives like the first breeze of morning, so gentle that you recognize it only when your heart stops resisting. You have known seasons where your breath barely carried life, times when you lived by reflex rather than awareness. Each morning, your first breath was only to test whether you could endure another day. Each night, your final breath was an attempt to reassure yourself, maybe tomorrow will be easier. It was as though the storm had programmed your breathing into survival mode. You did not realize that when breath is no longer deep, the soul receives no nourishment. You called it tired, stressed, numb. But I looked at your breathing and saw a deeper story. You had been breathing like a fugitive for far too long, and I did not want you to continue. I came to you not to demand lofty prayers, not to command you to rise immediately, but to whisper into your soul. Inhale, a little deeper. Exhale. Let me carry the heaviness. Gently, rhythm by rhythm, I returned you to the design I first breathed into you, a soul that knows peace, not merely survival. At times you asked, why hasn't my circumstance changed yet? But you did not see that if I changed your circumstances before changing your breathing, you would bring old tension into a new season. An open door cannot feel like freedom if the soul behind it is still clenched. A new opportunity cannot usher peace if your breath is still frantic. A great miracle cannot become blessing if your heart still lives in survival rhythm. That is why I heal your breath first, so that when I change your circumstance, your soul is ready to live, not just endure. When I soften your breathing, I am not doing something small, I am laying a foundation. Because the way you breathe shapes the way you see, the way you choose, and the way you step into the calling I have prepared for you. You do not see me doing great things, then pay attention to the small ones these recent mornings when you wake without that weight pressing against your chest. These evenings when you find yourself breathing a bit deeper without knowing why. Those moments in the middle of the day when your heart suddenly opens to a sliver of light. These are not fleeting emotions. They are signs that I am changing your breathing. I am expanding the space within you so new life can flow in. I am warming the places that have long been cold. I am loosening the knots where fear, shame, and disappointment have gathered. A single peaceful breath from you is a victory of heaven. Breath is my way of telling you that you are being brought back to life, not in some distant metaphorical sense, but in the immediate, tangible sense, living without fear of collapse, living without bracing, living without the past lodged in your chest, living with the trust that tomorrow is not a trial to endure but a gift to open. When your breathing changes, everything follows not instantly, not in a day, but like a seed cracking open beneath the soil when no one is watching. You will move from surviving to living, from tension to ease, from confusion to clarity, from self-strain to resting in me. I begin this work with breath because that is where I placed my first Eden within you. You do not realize that while the storm raged outside, other whispers were slipping into your heart, whispers not from me, nor from truth, but from wounds that had never been named. They did not arrive with shouts. They came through quiet repetition. You are useless. You are too late. You will never be enough. These phrases clung to your soul like the thick mud after a flood, heavy, dark, obscuring the image I imprinted in you from the beginning. You believed they were your own thoughts, but they were merely echoes of fear and injury, not the truth I speak. And now, day by day, I am peeling them off, not with force, but with a tenderness that surprises you. I place my hand upon the dark places you once avoided, and I begin to peel them back layer by layer. The first layer is useless, a lie you believed not because you failed, but because you were tired. I remove that layer with my light so you may see that your worth was never born from what you do, but from the one who made you. The second layer is too late, a phrase that clung to you like cold moss, making every step feel like a clock chasing you down. But I lift it off so you may know this in my kingdom. No one arrives late. Everything I do is perfectly timed. The third layer is not enough, the lie that makes you look at your hands and see lack. Look at your past and see worry. Look at your future and see fear. I strip it away like the final layer of mud after a flood, so you may understand this. You were never called to be self-sufficient. You were invited to lean on me. I have seen the seasons when you lived under these labels as if beneath a fixed gray sky. You walked through life like someone wearing a soaked coat, heavy, cold, clinging to your skin. I saw every moment you tried to appear fine so no one would know how much those lies had eroded your heart. You thought you were only tired, but I saw you were bound. You thought you were only weak, but I saw you were being squeezed by voices that did not come from me. That is why I do not begin by changing your circumstances. I begin by changing what you believe about yourself. If your lens is distorted, even the greatest blessing will appear dim. If your identity is covered in the mud of past storms, even my light will be difficult for you to recognize. I must cleanse you so you can see yourself as I see you. There was a moment when you asked me in silence, "Why do I feel so small?" And I answered with deep comfort, "Because you are looking at yourself through the mirror of the storm, not the mirror of mine." Storms do not only uproot trees, they misname survivors. They try to write words on your forehead that were never yours. But I have come to revoke every one of those names, erase every one of those marks, and inscribe upon your soul what I declared long before time began. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalm 139:14. As I peel these lies off your heart, you will feel yourself becoming lighter in ways you cannot explain. Not lighter because circumstances change, but because the chains around your mind have fallen. You will feel the sky within you widen. You will notice that your heart no longer tightens whenever a new challenge appears. You will hear the words "not enough" fall silent. And another voice, my voice, will rise in its place, "I am with you." And that single sentence will strip every lie of its power. I remove each layer to return you to the form I designed, untwisted by fear, untagged by storms, unchoked by memory. What remains is simply you, real, radiant, loved, known, and called. You cannot carry my stream of blessing to anyone if your inner foundation is still trembling. You may smile, serve, and appear strong before others, but if your soul does not stand on a firm foundation, the flow will break in the hours when you are weakest. Therefore, before I call you to bring living water to the dry, I must reset the foundation of peace within you. Not temporary peace, not peace that comes and goes with emotion, but peace like bedrock, the kind of peace that keeps your soul from collapsing even when storms rise again. You once built your life like a house on soft soil, the soil of others' expectations, the soil of fear, of rejection, the soil of responsibility heavier than your shoulders, the soil of self-blame, the soil of, "I should try a little harder," and each time a strong wind came, you felt yourself tilt. You thought the wind was too strong, but the truth was the ground was too thin. I do not blame you. I simply show you a better way, the rock. When I say, "My peace I give to you," I am not offering mere comfort. I am laying a cornerstone in your life. That stone does not depend on circumstances, does not require a storm-free life, does not need everything to change. It stands because it belongs to me. Do you remember the story of the two builders? One built on sand, one on rock. Both faced rain. Both faced rising waters. Both faced strong winds, but only one house remained. The one who built on sand did not build poorly. They simply built on ground that could not bear the weight of what was coming. I tell you this not as a warning, but so you will understand storms do not choose their victims. Foundations choose who stands and who falls. And you are the one whose foundation I am rebuilding. I am bringing peace into your life the way water seeks solid ground. When water finds rock, it does not shatter, it settles, merges, strengthens. So does the peace I give it does not merely soothe today's emotions, it flows into your thinking, permeates your perspective, and resets the rhythm of your life upon my foundation. I do not want you merely to feel peace, I want you to be shaped by peace. For the one shaped by peace will not speak hastily, will not act from fear, will not give from emptiness, and will not carry burdens I never asked them to bear. Such a one becomes a steady stream, and that is the one I appoint to carry my blessing. I rebuild your foundation of peace through many means you often overlook. I silence the noises that unsettle you. I close doors you thought you needed, but that only confused you. I remove distractions so you can turn your eyes back to me. And I give you strangely quiet mornings so your heart can rest upon the new ground. These are not coincidences. They are the strokes of my hand digging the foundation. You thought you were being isolated, but you were being positioned. Peace does not bloom in noise. It grows in the stillness I wrap around you. And when the foundation of peace is set, the flow will find you naturally. Just as water gravitates toward steady ground, my blessing gravitates toward those who stand upon the rock. When others encounter you, they will sense not only your words but the ground beneath your feet. A steady foundation imparts calm to unsettled souls. A person who carries true peace becomes a gateway through which my grace pours. For my river does not flow through chaotic hearts, it flows through hearts made still in me. You think you are not ready to lead, my stream, then look at what I am doing. I am rebuilding your house from the ground up. I am setting your soul upon the rock so that everything I am about to give will not break you. You do not need to hurry. Foundations take time. But once they are firm, you will witness something wondrous. You will become the kind of person others seek out simply to breathe in peace. Not because you are perfect, but because the foundation beneath you no longer belongs to you, it belongs to me. You have grown accustomed to calling yourself by the names of past seasons: survivor, fighter, one who barely held on in the storm. Those names were not wrong for that time, but they are no longer true for the season you are entering. Survivors only know how to keep life. Covenant bearers know how to give life. Survivors struggle to stand. Covenant bearers carry authority to lift others up. I no longer see you as a staggering soul emerging from the storm. I see you as one marked by the very promise I have placed upon your life. You do not walk with the identity of someone who barely escaped. You walk with the stature of one approved by heaven. And when heaven recognizes someone, the earth must respond. This identity changes your standing in every place you set your foot. In the past, you entered the day asking, "Will I be able to endure this?" But now you enter, asking, "What have I spoken over this place?" Once, you saw yourself through your wounds, but now you see yourself through the seal of covenant. For the covenant does not depend on your resolve or your consistency. It rests on my faithfulness. You do not need to strain to prove your worth. I have already established your worth by blood, by word, by the presence I have placed upon you. Where you once saw yourself as small, I call you by a new name, heir. Where you once felt you needed permission to exist, I place you in the position of one who holds the keys. I lead you out of the spirit of slavery, not by removing every burden that weighs on you, but by changing the way you read your life. A slave asks, "How do I survive today?" An heir asks, "What part of my assignment today awaits my arrival?" A slave walks in fear of being wrong. An heir walks carrying authority. The same tasks, the same workplace, the same family to care for, but your standing before heaven has changed, and earth must mirror it. Blessing does not come because you beg desperately. Blessing comes because you stand in your rightful identity, bearer of the covenant. Do you remember when Paul said, "You are no longer a slave, but a son"? And if a son, then an heir of God. That was not a poetic line of theology. It was a legal declaration over the soul. You are no longer driven by fear. You are led by the Spirit. You no longer act to prove you are enough. You act from the place of being fully received. You no longer fight for a position. I myself place you where you need to stand. You no longer look at the future as something to defend yourself against, but as something you have the authority to unlock. You do not tremble before the darkness. The darkness trembles because it knows you stand inside a covenant. The seal of covenant I have placed on you is something no storm can erase. It is not written by circumstance or emotion. It is engraved by my hand. When the storm knocks everything else down, it cannot knock down that seal. When others question you, they cannot change the name I call you. When you are weary, your identity still stands. When your thoughts wander, your identity still shines. When you feel unworthy, that identity continues calling you back into position. For this new identity does not rest on how you feel today. It rests on the word I spoke before you ever knew how to name yourself. And when you take hold of this identity, everything begins to turn. Your presence shifts the atmosphere of a room. Your words carry a new weight. The weary will come to you because they sense the fragrance of covenant peace upon your life. You are not merely saved, you are lifted. You are not merely living, you are commissioned. You are not merely walking, you are walking in a new name, a new position, a new heavenly affirmation. Survivors ask, how do I keep going? Bearers of the covenant ask, where is the flow of blessing I am being sent to carry today? You have grown accustomed to living like one who must beg for water, asking for more strength, more peace, more hope just to get through another day. You lower your head believing you lack. Stretch out your hands believing you are empty. And live as though water must be given to you drop by drop for you to survive. But you do not know that I never formed you as a cracked bowl meant to catch a trickle. I formed you as a vessel deep enough, wide enough, strong enough to hold a living stream. I do not call you a beggar of water. I call you a carrier of water, not so that you produce the source, but so you understand what I pour into you is not meant to stop in you. You were born to transmit, not merely receive, to carry living water, not sip temporarily, to bring renewal to dry lands, not merely endure your own thirst. I open your eyes to the underground spring I placed within you. You once believed that spring had dried up, because many seasons left you feeling depleted, nothing left to give, barely enough to stand. But the living stream does not dry according to emotion. It does not weaken according to circumstance. When I placed my spirit within you, I placed a spring no one can remove. It may have been covered by stones, buried by fear, pressed down by disappointment, but it never disappeared. And now, I am clearing away layer after layer so the spring may flow again. You call it recovery. I call it inner revival. You think you are merely surviving. I see you being reopened. You have asked me many times, what do I have to offer? You imagine you must accumulate more, become stronger, be fully healed, be wiser before you can become a source of water for others. But you do not know that a vessel only needs to be clean, not perfect. A vessel does not need to shine. It only needs not to be cracked beyond its ability to hold water. I do not demand that you become a flawless decorative jar. I only ask that you let me fill you. When I pour, you will carry. When I flow, you will transfer. When I quicken life, you will spread life. And since the day I formed you, you have always had the shape of a clay vessel, fragile enough to need me, strong enough to contain me, open enough for water to flow through you to others. When I open your eyes to see yourself as a carrier of water, I am not assigning you a heavy task or a responsibility meant to frighten you. I am speaking of the nature I placed within you. From the beginning you were born to be a stream, not a stagnant pool. A stagnant pool keeps everything for itself and eventually grows murky. A stream receives and then releases, because it knows the source never runs out. And I am your source. When you feel you have nothing left to give, that is not truth. It is only a sign that you are looking at the vessel instead of the source. The vessel can be empty for a moment, but the source is still full. The vessel can spill when bumped, but the source still flows. The vessel can be tired, but the source never tires. Your lack is not an ending, it is a reminder to return to the source so you may keep carrying water into the world. Look back at the times you thought you had run dry. You still comforted someone with a gentle word. You still held someone when they trembled. You still listened to someone's tears while your own heart was breaking. You thought you were forcing yourself. I say it was the spring. It is when you are weakest that the spring flows most clearly, because it is not hidden by effort or control. The living water I placed in you does not flow according to schedule. It flows according to surrender. And each time you open your heart, the spring breaks through again. You once saw yourself as someone begging for drops of blessing. But look now, you were created to carry a stream. You feared you would never be enough for others. But I say you are not the source, you are the channel. The pressure to be enough dissolves when you understand this. Your task is not to make the water, but to not block the water. When you let me flow through you, you do what you could never do on your own. You become a place where others find life. Not because you are great, but because the source within you is eternal. Imagine an underground spring. No one sees it in its early years. No one knows it is gathering water. No one notices its subtle movements beneath the deeper layers. But one day, that spring rises and becomes a stream, not because it has just begun to exist, but because its time has come. So it is with you. The flow I placed within you has been running far longer than you realize. What you have walked through has not made that stream disappear. It has only strengthened the current of tomorrow. You are standing at the point where the spring breaks open, and when it does, you will understand why I have held you, why I have healed you from the breath outward, why I have peeled lies off of you, why I have set peace as your foundation. It is all because you were not made merely to live. You were made to carry a river. You will carry water not through striving, but through presence. Those who come near you will feel their hearts settle. The exhausted will feel rest simply by hearing you speak. Those who have lost hope will find strength they thought had run dry. Not because of you, but because the living water flows through you. You will become a stream in the wilderness, a wellspring in dry places, a sign of life where others assumed only death remained. And then you will understand you were never the one begging for water. You were simply someone who did not yet know you were carrying it. You have stood before many doors that made your heart ache, as though a hand were holding you back. Doors before which you turned around because the darkness behind felt more familiar than the threshold ahead. There were places you longed to enter, but storms pushed you away. Opportunities that flickered and were extinguished by the wind. Territories your soul knew it was called to. Yet your feet felt bound by the memories of past failures. You thought those doors were closed because you were unworthy. But the truth is this: it was not yet the time of covenant. And now, when I say I give you authority, it is not you forcing the door open. It is I placing the key in your hand. That key is not made of metal or skill or a polished past. That key is my name. When you walk in, my name, the door that resisted your strength must open before my power. The places storms once used to threaten you will become the very places you walk without trembling. Not because you are stronger than the wind, but because you carry an authority that no longer belongs to the earth. I do not give you authority so you may boast. I give it so you may step into the points I marked long ago, the points the enemy attempted to block because it knew that once you crossed them, the water within you would revive the land. Some doors appear outwardly like simple passageways, but in truth, they are thresholds of influence. The enemy does not fear your tears or your exhaustion. It fears you stepping through the right door. For once you step, the oil I have anointed you with will spread. Once you stand, the atmosphere will shift. Once you speak, life will be sown. The storm that once shut the doors was not sent to kill you, it was sent to delay this moment. And I say the delay is over. The door that no one could open is opening now because I have spoken. No one can shut it. I want you to remember the times you stood before something great and stepped back because you feared you were not enough. You did not realize that the voice of fear was not coming from your soul. It was coming from the resistance at the threshold. The enemy does not roar when the door belongs to someone else. It roars when the door belongs to you. It does everything it can to convince you that it is acceptable for you to remain outside, but the cost of staying outside is always the shrinking of yourself. I have come to end that. I give you authority so you no longer remain outside the places I have prepared. The authority I give does not come from feeling. It comes from covenant. There will be days when you feel full of confidence, and days when you feel frail. In both days, the authority remains. It does not depend on your breath, it depends on my word. When I spoke through Isaiah, I will open for my chosen one a door no one can shut. That word was not only for the ancient days, it is at work in your life now. Authority is not feeling strong. Authority is walking because I have said, go. You will see the things that once hindered you become entrances. The places that once frightened you will become the ground upon which you stand. The words that once made you shrink will lose their power over you. You will return to the points where storms once struck you down, not to retaliate, but to reclaim, not to prove yourself worthy, but to declare you belong where I have called you to stand. Your every step will not merely be movement, it will be the act of one who carries a key. And as you walk, you will realize this: the door opens not because you pound on it, but because I have gone before you. You hear only the creaking of hinges, but it is I who touched them first. You see only the light spilling out, but it is I who lit the lamp in the room. You feel only the widening space, but it is I who cleared what once obstructed you. You step, but I am the one leading. Authority does not place weight on you. Authority frees you from the fear of needing to succeed by your own strength. Let me speak this deep into your soul. You are not late to your door. You are not standing at the wrong door. You have not knocked on the wrong one. You are standing before the door I prepared for you before the foundation of the world. If it once remained closed, it was to protect you in the time you were not ready. If it opens now, it is because your soul has been rerouted, unchained, renamed, and unsealed. What I have done in the 6 previous seasons was not to soothe you. It was training for you to carry the authority of one who leads a river of blessing. When you step into the places the storms once blocked, the land will recognize you, not in a social sense, but in a spiritual one. Land that belongs to covenant will shake gently when your foot touches it. You will feel something lighten, as if something opened from within rather than without. That is the sign that you are standing on ground I appointed for you to become a spring. Where you step, water will find its path. From now on, when you see a door before you, do not ask, "Am I strong enough to open it?" Ask, "What has God spoken about this door?" For if I have spoken, the door will open. If I have given you the key, it will turn at your touch. If I have called you to step, the path will part. The doors that once closed were to deepen you. The doors that will open are to reveal my glory in you. You will no longer walk by old fears. You will walk by new authority, and that authority cannot be stolen by any wind. You have long believed that the spiritual must come like thunder, dramatic breakthroughs, sudden change, clear signs. You believed. My blessing must surge like a flood, rushing in as a wave that alters everything in a breath. But in the way I train a person who carries living water, the first lesson I give is not speed, it is rhythm. I teach you that water does not rush to prove its power, nor does it stagnate and lose its nature. It simply flows steady, quiet, persistent, unwavering. And that is the strength I am forming within your soul. You have often been impatient, longing for miracles, longing for change, longing for some surge of emotion to assure you that I am at work. But the greatest things I do in your life come like a river moving through the night without noise, without spectacle, without startling anyone in a moment. Yet when morning comes, you look back and realize an entire field has been watered. That is how I work. I do not build your soul with noise. I build it with a steady, hidden current that never stops. And now I am teaching you to carry that same rhythm to others. You must learn to distinguish between slow and late. In the life of the Spirit, slow is the pace of maturity. Late is the voice of restlessness and fear. Water that moves slowly is not weak. Its calm comes from knowing its source and knowing it will reach the place appointed for it. Those who chase signs will exhaust themselves, always needing another sensation. But those who walk in my current will have endurance, the strength that lasts, the strength that carries life in ways no one can explain. I am teaching you the power of not stopping one step each day, one breath each hour, one small faithfulness sustained over time, so you may understand that the strongest waters are not the ones that surge, but the ones that refuse to cease. You have blamed yourself for not changing fast enough, not growing fast enough, not becoming strong fast enough. But look at what I am building. I am not forming a seasonal stream in you. I am forming a river. And a river is not created by one rain. It is formed by thousands of faithful drops. I want your soul to grow that way, not flaring up and fading out, but steady and enduring, slow and sure, unseen yet unstoppable. I want you to understand that the greatest blessing is not intense emotion, but spiritual stability, the kind of strength storms cannot lift and deserts cannot dry. A river holds a secret. It never panics. When stones block its path, it simply changes course without losing itself. When night falls and no one sees it, it keeps flowing. When the sun scorches the land, it goes deeper underground to preserve life. Impatience scatters your soul, stability sharpens it. You are not called to chase after signs. You are called to flow with my rhythm. When you step into the role of one who carries my river, people will not need you to perform miracles. They will need water consistency, peace, steadiness, gentleness that cannot be shaken. You will see that your greatest strength is not found in the moments you burn brightly, but in the seasons when you refuse to give up. No one sees the river in the dark, yet it is the river at night that feeds the soil. So it is with you. The hours you endure, even when you feel nothing, those are the hours the water runs strongest in you. I see every minute of faithfulness, every silent prayer, every small step you take that no one else witnesses. None of it is wasted. All of it is forming the flow of the one I intend to use. And when you understand this rhythm, you will carry it to other souls. People do not need someone frantic. They need someone who does not stop. They need someone who does not panic when silence lingers, does not doubt when results are not yet visible, does not leave when the soil is still dry. A bearer of my river does not shout, does not agitate. They simply flow steadily, deeply, widely, and that steadiness makes the ground bloom. You will learn an important truth. Your endurance is the miracle many others are waiting for. Slow but not late. Gentle but not weak. Still but not stagnant. Flowing but never empty. In the days after the storm, it is not the silence that confuses you, but the noise, the leftover fear, the dark predictions, the returning memories that once broke you, the voices of others speaking from their limited perspectives, and the voice of your own soul learning to stand again. Together they create an atmosphere that blurs what is true, what is residue from the storm, and what is from me. For whenever you are being prepared to carry the river of blessing, the first thing I deepen in you is not strength, but discernment, the ability to recognize my voice amid a multitude of echoes. Discernment is not the art of guessing my will, nor is it a talent reserved for a few. Discernment is the skill of those who live near the source. It is the mark of those who bear water. The breath of a soul that leans on me instead of leaning on fear. You have heard so many voices that at times you mistake the loudest one for the truest one. But I do not speak loudly. I do not shout for attention. I do not push my way into priority. I speak with a gentle whisper, a voice that never forces but invites, never burdens but guides, never frightens but steadies. You often think discernment means knowing what will happen, but true discernment is knowing who is speaking. When you recognize my voice, you can walk even when the ground beneath you is unclear. When you hear me clearly, you are no longer pulled by the noise of the storm. A person who carries the river cannot live on rumors or fluctuating feelings. They must live on my quiet word. For the river does not flow from agitation, but from clarity. Let me show you how to recognize my voice. My voice always leads you into peace, even when the instruction is great. My voice is always clear, never confusing, never scattering your mind. My voice never shames you, never blames you, never questions your worth. My voice touches your soul like evening wind touches the skin, gentle yet true, soft yet strong. The voice of the storm is the opposite, hurried, pressing, making you feel late, making you feel insufficient, driving you to run without knowing where, pushing you to act simply to escape heaviness. The storm always speaks loudly, but truth always comes softly. I am teaching you this. It is not the loudest voice that shapes your future, but the right one. A bearer of my river does not act because they are pushed, they act because they are led. And you will see that when you focus on my voice, every other voice will fade into the background, not because they vanish, but because they lose their power. Discernment does not eliminate noise. It puts noise in its proper place outside of you, not within you. And something remarkable happens when you recognize my voice. Your mind becomes light. No more weary struggle between must and must not, right and wrong, now and not yet. No more stepping forward while pulling back at the same time. You will notice your soul beginning to clear from within, as if someone opened a door for morning light to enter. That clarity does not come from overthinking. It comes from my illumination. When you hear my voice, you no longer need all the answers. You simply need to follow the voice, step by step. You are being prepared for a new season, one where only those who know the voice of the source can carry the river fully. I do not want you to become someone who runs after the needs of others and loses your own route. I want you to become someone who stands firm amid countless needs because you are led by the right voice. I am opening your spiritual ear so you can hear me no matter how loud the world becomes. When I call, my voice does not compete, for it is recognized not by the ear, but by the soul. From now on, When the noise rises, you will no longer ask, "What must I do?" You will ask, "Which voice is speaking?" And when you ask that, all the confusion will begin to unravel on its own. My voice is never vague. My voice is light that travels with the stream. When you hear my voice, you will guide the waters without losing your way. You will know when to flow fast, when to flow deep, and when to pause so the water can soak into the ground. Discernment will become your second rhythm, natural as breathing, steady as a river. You may pass through storms. You may stand on the rock. You may hold the keys I place in your hand. You may hear my voice in the midst of noise, but for you to become a true channel of blessing, there is one more work I must deepen in you. I teach you to love again. For water cannot flow through a heart that is shut down. A river blocked by rigid embankments turns into a stagnant pond. A heart locked tight can only hold water for itself, but it cannot bring life to anyone else. You are called to carry the waters, but the waters only move through a softened heart. I see the places in you that have been closed for a long time, not because you are cruel, but because you are wounded. Hurt makes the heart curl in on itself like hastily built levees after a flood. You closed, not to resist me, but to protect yourself. I know that. I do not blame you for that defense. I know you have loved and been wounded, have given and been disappointed, have trusted and been abandoned. I know there are people you long to trust forever, who instead drained the water in you instead of refreshing it. I know how many times love left you so tired you thought, if I just stop loving, it will hurt less. But a bearer of blessing cannot live with a heart locked by fear. The water I have placed within you does not flow through walls of stone. It needs an opening, soft earth, a place that can receive and can give. So I begin to take down those embankments, not by smashing them, not by striking them hard, but gently, like opening a dam so the water can find its path again. You will hear the sound of water moving again inside you, quiet, warm, not pushing you forward, only reminding you that you were made to love, not to shrink back. I do not lead you back into love as it was before, because the way you loved before had its fragile places. I lead you into a new kind of love, love that has been healed, cleansed, and upheld by me. This love does not rise from need, nor from hunger for recognition, nor from fear of being alone. It flows from the source, from the living water within you. When you love from the source, you do not run dry. When you give from the source, you do not lose yourself. When you reach out from the source, you are not used up, because you are no longer loving alone. You are loving in me. I begin by softening the places you have hardened. You think you are dry, but in truth there is only a layer of gravel on the surface. I brush away those stones with my hand. You imagine you no longer know how to feel, yet you will be surprised when your heart grows tender at a single sentence. A quiet morning, a moment when I touch an old wound. You think loving again is dangerous. I tell you, loving again is healing. For a soft heart is not a weak heart. A soft heart knows that the stream passing through it does not originate from itself. Think of your heart as a riverbank. A bank that is too high keeps the river from overflowing into the fields. A bank that is too hard keeps the water from soaking in. But the right kind of bank, firm enough not to be swept away, soft enough to absorb water, keeps the river on course without killing it. That is what I am doing in you, preserving what must be protected and softening what must yield. You do not lose wisdom when your heart softens. You lose bitterness. You do not lose discernment when your heart opens. You lose excessive defensiveness. You do not lose strength when you love again. You simply lay down the armor that made it hard to breathe. The river of blessing I entrust to you does not flow through talent, position, or sheer effort. It flows through the heart. Where the heart is soft, the water travels far. Where the heart is open, others are refreshed. Where the heart still feels the ache of another's pain, the flow of blessing is not blocked. If you want the waters to reach far, your heart must open. Not open by forcing yourself, but open because I am healing what once shut down. I know there are parts of you that have said, I do not want to love again. I hear that. But I also hear a deeper part within you, the part that longs to be touched, to give, to be a blessing, to live from a true heart. I am not opening your heart so that others can wound you again. I am opening your heart so that my water can flow through you. And when my water flows, it will wash, heal, soften, and cleanse what the storm left behind. Look back each time you have given love from the very place I touched. You have felt life rising in you, not because you forced yourself to love, but because the water flowed, not because you were trying to be strong, but because the love I placed in you is stronger than fear. My water always finds its way to dry ground. My love always finds its way to what is hard. And you are the channel of that love. From now on, whenever you feel your heart closing, remember, the flow of blessing needs an open way. Whenever you feel the urge to build a wall, remember the embankments I build in you are not meant to block the water, but to guide it. And whenever you feel love returning in you, do not be afraid. That is not a sign that you are losing control. It is a sign that you are returning to your true design. You were made to love not in the old way, but in the way I teach you, steady as a current, gentle as water, clear as a spring, without compulsion and without fear. Love is how the water finds its path. You have looked at certain regions of your inner life and thought, this part is dead. There are memories you avoid, wounds you dare not touch, stories you thought you only needed to bury deep enough to keep going. You see those places as scorched earth after a storm cracked, parched, beyond saving. You name them too late, too painful, too broken. But what I see is different. I look right at the place where you have despaired, and I declare, here, I will make springs arise. You think life only grows where things are already beautiful, prepared, and restored. But I do not choose the good soil first. I choose the dry ground first, not to increase your suffering, but to reveal a kingdom pattern you have never understood. The very places you deem dead are the places I choose as sources. For only those who have tasted bitterness can truly offer sweetness. Only land that has known drought can fully drink in living water. Only places that have been broken have cracks wide enough for a spring to break through. Do you remember my promise in Isaiah? The desert shall blossom like the rose. The desert does not bloom by itself. It blooms because a stream arrives. It blooms because someone speaks a word of life over it. So, it is with you. It is not the beauty of your memories that makes them fruitful, but the fact that those memories are touched, watered, and transformed by me. Even the most painful ones can become a source of comfort to others. The very things you hide are the things I want to use. The very things you are ashamed of are the things I long to redeem. The very things you have labeled permanent failures can become healing songs when I lay my hand upon them. I see the places where your soul has grown so tired it wanted to surrender. I see the seasons when you had no tears left to cry, no words left to explain, no strength left to hope. You thought that place had been erased from the map of the living. But I did not erase it. I marked it. I wrote a promise over that ground, one day. A spring will burst forth from here. Look at the crevices in the rock of your life, the fractures you once took as proof that you were broken beyond repair. I do not pour cement over them to hide them. I leave them open so water can pass through. Those very cracks will become the channels through which living water flows. The very place where you once ached will become the place where others find comfort. The very place you thought had no more worth will become the place where I make flowers bloom for those I set along your path. You do not have to force your wounds to become lessons. You only need to let me place a spring there. When I pour water into dead ground, life rises without your striving. It rises by the very nature of living water. You will find yourself beginning to understand, to empathize, to uphold others in ways you never imagined you could, not because you have grown wiser, but because you have walked through the very ground where they now stand. The places where storms once exhausted you will become the ground on which you stand the firmest. The places where you once sobbed will become the places where you softly say, I know, and there is still a spring here. When others come to you and ask, how do you know how to comfort them in just the right place? You will not answer with theory. You will answer out of a tender truth within, because I have been comforted in just the right place. No one can truly lead a stream of blessing if they have never been dry. No one can truly pour out life if they have never stood in a place that felt like death. You were never meant to remain stuck in dead places. You were meant to become a spring in those very places. You once thought the storm seasons of your life were merely stretches to survive. Dark chapters you hoped would pass quickly so you would never have to remember them again. But I did not allow the storms just to test your strength. I use your experience of the storm as a key to open doors for those who do not yet know me. You did not suffer for nothing. You did not weep in vain. The stretches of road you thought were only made of tears were, in truth, the stretches where I was building a bridge inside your soul, a bridge others will one day cross to come nearer to me. Every time you tell your story, I do not see a weak person confessing. I see a Moses of your generation, a person who has lived through deep waters and now knows how to point the way. People will believe your words not because you are eloquent, but because you have once stood in the midst of parted seas. You know what it feels like to have water up to your neck. You know what it feels like to see no shore in sight. You know what it feels like to stand between two walls of water with only one thing left to hold on to, me. And precisely because you have passed through that place, you become a bridge for those who have never believed the sea could part. You will be surprised to see that people are not persuaded by your perfection. They are moved by the scars that have healed on you. They are not awakened by theories. They are awakened by a true story. You think you need many words to change someone, but sometimes all it takes is a single sentence. I have been there too, and the soul in front of you will open. As you speak of the storms you have walked through, others will no longer see storms as full stops. They will see them as thresholds, because you yourself will stand before them as living proof that a storm can become a road. Just as the Israelites saw Moses lift up his staff and the far shore ceased to be a fantasy and became possible, so it will be with you. You do not part the sea, but you lift up your story, and I will open hearts. I use your experience of the storm in three ways. I use it as testimony. Someone who does not yet know me will look at you and wonder, how did you manage to stand? And that is when a door opens. You do not need to offer a complicated explanation. You only need to tell the truth. I did not stand by myself. The one who was with me held me up. From there, another soul will begin to listen. I use it as a map. When someone falls into a pit you once fell into, You will realize that you know the way out. You know which corner is the darkest. You know which whisper is most likely to make someone give up. You know which step needs to be taken first. This does not come from books, it comes from your own journey. You become a guide not because you are impressive, but because you were once lost and were found. I use it as a spiritual commission. Not everyone is entrusted to lead others out of the sea. Only those who have once stood in the salt water, once trembled, once cried out, once begged, once were rescued, are given the authority to say, "Keep going. There is a way. You have passed through." And so you carry a voice in realms where others are still afraid. You do not speak with your own power, but with the weight of an experience I have turned into spiritual authority. One day, when you look back, you will notice a pattern among the people who enter your life. They will carry the very pains that once brought you to your knees. They will ask the questions you once asked. They will tremble in the ways you once trembled. And in that moment, you will understand the storm did not break you. The storm equipped you. I do not waste pain. I use it to deepen the heart, broaden the river, and create a shelter for those who do not yet know me, but are desperately searching for a way out. You will feel a holy sort of pride, not pride in your own strength, but in being used. You will feel gratitude, not gratitude for the storm, but gratitude that the storm did not define you. And you will feel useful not in the social sense, but in the kingdom sense. You will have become a bridge through which another soul meets me. You have grown accustomed to speaking in the language of days spent merely trying to stay upright, cautious sentences, comforts tinged with half-hidden doubt, sighs your heart does not dare to fully acknowledge. The language of a survivor always carries the color of defense of what if, of fear of being wrong, of fear of being hurt again. But when I place my living water within you, I also place something new upon your lips, words that bring life. Not words that merely manage situations, not words that hide your trembling, but words that can open doors, lift people up, and heal. You do not need to speak loudly for your words to carry power. It is the truth I have placed within you that gives them weight. And when you speak from the source, others will recognize these are not the words of someone who has just escaped disaster. These are words anointed. You did not fully understand this power until I showed you the image of water flowing from the mouth of a rock. Rock is hard, cold, weathered by impact, yet precisely there the water bursts forth. In the same way, your lips, though once silenced by pain, once closed in self-protection, once cracked by the storm, can still become the place where living water springs out, not because of any beauty on the outside, but because of the source within. Water does not need a soft door, it only needs a way through. When I choose the mouth of the rock, it is so you will know I can use the very place that was once wounded as the outlet for life. From now on, your words are not merely sentences, your words become rain falling in the right place, vapor softening the soil, the first drop awakening dry ground in someone else's heart. And because you are called to channel blessing, your words will carry 3 marks of one who is anointed, words with weight. Because you speak from experiences I have sanctified, words with rain. Because every sentence you utter causes the soil in another's heart to crack open and receive, words with direction. Because your words do not throw people into panic but lead them closer to the source. Survivors speak to preserve themselves, but those who carry the flow speak to rescue others. From now on, when you open your mouth, do not think you are merely talking, you are letting water run. Do not think you are merely comforting, you are letting rain fall. Do not think you are merely sharing. You are opening a path for someone to find the very life you yourself have received. What I place on your lips will go farther than you imagine, for living water never stops where it first springs forth. You once went through storms with eyes blurred by tears and a heart that did not know where to hold on. You only knew to take it one step at a time, one breath at a time, sometimes just to stand still so you would not collapse. Yet in those darkest hours, I placed in you a kind of understanding no school could ever teach, wisdom forged in high winds. So when I say I give you wisdom, I am not adding some new information. I am shining light on experiences I have already sanctified. From here on, you will not merely survive the storm, you will read the storm. You will know which voices in the wind are real and which are only threats. You will discern the direction of the water, the thickness of the night, and the point where the exit opens. That is the sign of one who has matured in me, someone who does not just live, but lives with eyes. The wisdom I give you is not like the wisdom of this world. It is like the harbor pilot who goes ahead of a ship in rough seas, not the strongest person, not the loudest, but the one who knows the currents, understands the waves, senses the timing, and feels the wind's direction. You become that kind of person not because you are gifted, but because you once trembled on the deck and I held you, like a torch held in a stormy night. You do not make the storm vanish, but you show others the road. Your wisdom is wisdom tried by fire, the kind that does not panic when clouds gather, does not lose direction when the thunder roars, does not flee when the ground shakes, because you know the storm is real. But my leading is more real still, and then I will bring into your life those who are standing exactly where you once stood, confused, overwhelmed, unable to tell where the storm came from or how to escape it. They will look into your calm eyes and not understand why you are not afraid. They will hear your voice and feel themselves held back from chaos. They will ask you questions no one answered for you in the past. And in that moment, you will understand what I am doing. I am using the wisdom in you to guide them through storms they do not yet know how to name. Not with shouting, but with a quiet certainty. Not with commands, but with a presence that makes them realize heaven has not withdrawn its mercy. When you lead them through, it is I who lead. You are simply the one carrying the torch. There were days when you thought your heart had just enough strength to hold yourself together, enough to breathe, enough to stand, enough not to fall. You once said, "Just let me get through the day." But in every moment you were struggling to stay upright. I was quietly doing something far greater. I was stretching your heart, not so you could carry more baggage, but so you could become a riverbed with capacity, a place where other people's stories could find rest. I know you did not see this while you were still in the storm. Back then you only wanted to survive. But when the storm has passed, you will see your heart has been widened like a river after heavy rain, able to receive many streams without overflowing its banks. Those who channel blessing are not born out of abundance. They are shaped in lack. In the very place where you felt you had no strength left to love, that is where I performed the miracle of opening your heart. I do not open your heart with lectures, but with my presence, softening stone, soothing wounds, breaking open the places you tightened out of fear of being hurt again. You think that an open heart means weakness, but in my kingdom, a wide heart is strength, because a person with a wide heart is not threatened by others' needs, not alarmed by their tears, not exhausted by hearing stories that repeat the same pain. A wide heart knows it is not the source. I am the source, and its only task is to be the riverbed I choose for the water to flow through. You will notice this when the first people come to you, not because you speak impressively, not because you are especially capable, but because they sense in you a rare peace. They will share with you the secrets of their soul, the wounds they dare not speak aloud, the turning points they do not know how to name. They will place their stories in your hands like travelers in the wilderness, placing their water bottle in the hands of a guide, trusting that this person knows how to hold it without spilling. And then you will see I widened your heart so there would be room for stories that are not your own. You are not the main character in every story they tell, but I chose you as the place where those stories can catch their breath again. A wide heart does not mean you carry every burden. Those who channel blessing are not the ones who hold all the water, but the ones who know which way the water should go. Like a river that gathers many streams yet still leads them all toward the sea. You will learn how to embrace others' pain without losing your own peace. You will listen without sinking. You will empathize without taking on what is not yours to bear. You will hold, but not become stuck. This is the wisdom I give to those who channel the flow, not a fragile heart, but a heart that is soft, yet has boundaries. Wide, yet not chaotic. Deep, yet not dark. Steady, yet not hardened. You will see yourself change in this season. You will be surprised to find that you understand others more quickly, are more patient, less judgmental, and love more easily, not because you have become a better person, but because you have become more like me. Every time you feel someone's pain without running away from it, it is because I have been there with you. Every time you hear someone say, "I don't even know where to start," you remember that you once trembled the same way, and I took your hand. It is the memory of my support that makes room in your heart for others. You do not widen your heart by willpower, you widen it by remembering mercy. A wide heart also means you no longer keep your own storms as a fence. You do not use your past story to build walls, you use it to build bridges. And as you recount the journey you have walked, others will discover the path for their own. You will see something strange and wonderful the wider your heart becomes, the lighter you feel, not because the burdens have disappeared, but because you are no longer holding everything in. You learn to let the water flow through without hoarding it, to let blessing go without fearing loss, to love without fearing that you will shatter. A wide heart is a heart that knows whatever I pour in will never run out, and therefore it does not fear giving away. My child, I am preparing you for a greater role, one whose influence reaches farther than you can see right now. You are not only called to live well, you are called to be able to hold many people. Those who are exhausted from running after water in dry places, those whose cries have gone silent, those who believe they must swim alone in the flood. They will find in you a quiet stretch of river where they can breathe again. This is not because you are impressive, it is because I have chosen your heart to be a riverbed. And when you allow me to widen your heart, you will not only carry the flow of blessing, you will become part of the flow itself. You think this journey has been only for you, as if I led you through the storm and then left you standing alone by the shore of a new river. But I never intended for blessing to stop at one person. In every season I have led you through, I have been preparing the ones who will gather around you like riverbanks returning to their source, like branches leaning down toward the water, like birds who know where life is and come to rest there. You do not realize it, but every step you took through the storm was another stone I laid to form a new ecosystem, not an ecosystem of human effort, but an ecosystem of blessing. The current I placed in you was never designed to sustain only you. It was created to water a region wider than you imagine. You will see this when people who have never met you before feel strangely safe sitting beside you. There will be those who do not understand why they start to cry when you speak a simple sentence, why their hearts soften just because you are in the room. It is because they did not come to find you, They came to find the water in the flow I placed within you. Just as the early church gathered not because they understood everything, but because they recognized the Holy Spirit among them. The community around you will form not because of skill, but because of life. I will do this in a natural, gentle, unhurried way. You do not need to build a signboard, brand a name, or register anything. Spiritual community is birthed from my life, not from your programs. I will bring to you those who are dry yet still thirsty, those who no longer believe they deserve anything yet still long for a place to lean, those who think they have lost their way yet still hope there might be a place with light. And when they come, they will find what you once searched for, a land that does not demand, a water that does not judge, a breath that does not push them beyond what they can bear. You will see this scene from the small stream flowing through your life. Trees begin to grow, then shade appears, then birds return, and then other living things of the spiritual life discover the environment they needed to live again. This is how I build community, not with concrete blocks, but with life spreading outward. One healed person will gently soothe another. One encouraged person will comfort the next. One lit candle will warm the whole room. And all of it begins with what I have stirred in you. I will shape this community not only to come to you, but to stand with you. They will not only be watered by the stream you carry, they will become small streams themselves, joining together to become a greater river. Just as the first church was of one heart and mind, breaking bread, praying, and sharing everything. The community around you will carry a similar atmosphere. They will share strength so that no one collapses in silence. No one carries wounds that no one knows about. No one sits alone in the dark. This is not a community of perfect people. This is a community of people who know they have been watered. And you, the one I have chosen to lead the flow, will not stand above them or ahead of them. You will stand among them. For the river does not build a throne for anyone. It brings life for everyone. You will learn that you are not the source, but you are also not an outsider. You are the first to drink, then to share, then to drink again, then to pour again. In the ecosystem of blessing, water never stands still. It moves from me to you, from you to others, and back to me again. And wherever you stand, that place will become more fertile than you expect. You will rejoice when you see this. The one who was once exhausted now stands firm. The one who was once lost now guides others. The one who used to weep in the corner now sings praise. The one who thought they were useless now becomes a small branch river, carrying blessing to places you yourself could never reach. This is not the expansion of you. This is the expansion of my kingdom. And you are placed at the center like a pillar of living water. You have thought your role was simply to point the way to blessing, that you were the one standing on the bank, calling the water to flow in the right direction. You imagined yourself as the guide, the staff bearer, the one laying down a path for others to walk. But I am telling you something far deeper. You do not only lead the river, you become that river. What I am doing in you has gone beyond the limits of a role. It has become your nature. Blessing is no longer merely something you perform. It becomes something you carry in every breath. As it is written, "From within him will flow rivers of living water," John 7:3-8. You are no longer just the one who directs others to the water. The water flows out from you. When I brought you out of the storm, I did not merely gather the broken pieces. I reshaped the structure of your soul into the form of the very river I give. In the moment you thought you were only sharing what you had received, I had already begun to weave the nature of life into you. That is why, when you speak, those who listen feel lighter. When you are silent, the atmosphere still changes. When you step into the room, peace spreads without you trying. You are not doing that, you are that. Water is no longer something you hold in your hands, it is something flowing in your veins, soaking your spirit, glimmering through your eyes. You become part of a holy movement without having to push it, because it flows through you as naturally as water runs under the earth without asking permission. You will begin to notice this difference. When you were only leading the river, you watch the water flow. When you become the river, you feel the water move within you. Before, you had to ask for direction. Now direction is born within the rhythm of your own heart. Before, you had to work hard to encourage others. Now your words naturally become healing energy. Before, you had to search for a source to pour from. Now you flow because I am in you. It is not that you have become greater, it is that you and I have entered a deeper union, I in you, and you in me. John 1:5-4. In that union, blessing is no longer something that comes and goes. It becomes a living, constant reality. My child, stand in awe of this. The storm that seemed determined to bury you was the very place where I carved out a new river inside you. Just as cracked desert ground suddenly absorbs the first rain and becomes a channel for water, your soul has been opened in the very places you thought would never recover. I have not only cleansed your heart, I have made your heart absorbent, so that anyone who steps into the sphere of your life will feel watered. This is not your glory, but mine shining through you as sunlight reflecting on the river's surface. You do not have to manufacture the flow, you only need to remain in me, and the river will not cease. Now you are stepping into a new season where the boundary between the blessing you carry and the blessing you are disappears. You no longer have to ask yourself whether you have enough of something to give. Your very presence has become a vessel, a current, a testimony. People will come to you not merely to ask for water, but to encounter the river itself. And when they meet the river, they meet me. Blessing does not originate in you. Blessing passes through you, like water passes through a riverbed I have chosen. And you will feel a strange freedom. You do not have to strain to flow. You flow because I am flowing in you. My child, what I am doing in you is unlike anything you have ever tried to build by your own strength. What human effort constructs is blown over by wind, washed away when water rises, and cracked when tested by fire. But what I build cannot be touched by any storm. I want you to know this clearly, like a word carved in stone, like a mark that does not fade. No storm in the future can take back what I have placed in you. Your permanence does not come from favorable circumstances, but from the covenant I made with you in the very moments when you thought you were shattering. That covenant is not written on paper, it is written upon your soul. You have been through seasons where you were torn so deeply you felt there was nothing left to hold on to. It is in that place of apparent loss that I laid a new foundation. And this foundation does not rest in your hands for you to misplace, it rests in mine. And no storm can break my hand. You have assumed that what I am doing inside you is as fragile as a candle in the wind, easily snuffed out by new trials, easily dragged away by old anxieties. But I tell you this, what is birthed in the storm cannot be destroyed by the storm, because I myself stood in the midst of the great wind to guard it. You will enter seasons where the winds rise again, where old whispers try to return, where new tests make you wonder if you are truly strong. But this time is different. Once, storms could make you doubt yourself. Now, they will only remind you of what I have already done. You will no longer tremble like one afraid of losing. You will stand like one who knows that everything real has been sealed. This is the unfading mark I speak over you. No trial has the right to reclaim what I have declared belongs to you. No night can steal the light I have kindled in you. No lie can erase the name I have written over your identity. You once believed your life was a valley low, damp, and difficult to stand in. But I am giving you another picture. The very valley where you once hurt will become the reservoir where many will drink. Water runs to the lowest place, and I have poured my living water into the deepest regions of your heart. So you no longer need to fear remembering the old valleys, because they are no longer places of collapse. They have become pools of blessing, and no storm can drain a pool I have filled. My child, I want you to understand storms can only shake what does not belong to the covenant. The covenant itself cannot be shaken. The covenant I have made with you does not demand your strength. It rests on my faithfulness. And I am the God of covenant, not a God of passing moods. You could never keep what I give if I did not keep it first, but I have kept. I am keeping, and I will keep. What I have built in you is anchored in my power, not in your feelings or the season you are in. Therefore, your future is not as fragile as you fear. It is as secure as the one who made heaven and earth. There will be moments when your heart trembles, as if the ground beneath you were opening up. But you will be surprised to find that you do not collapse, not because you have grown numb, but because you have been rebuilt with heavenly material. You will realize that your old self is gone, the self that panicked easily, doubted quickly, and feared loss constantly. In its place is a deep quiet born of covenant. What I do will remain. Ecclesiastes 3:1-4. I do not build halfway. I do not craft something meant to chip and crack. I have not called you only to abandon your future to chance. From this day forward, whenever storms arise, you will no longer ask, "Am I strong enough?" You will ask, "What part of what He has built in me will this reveal?" The storm is no longer a threat. It becomes a mirror reflecting the strength of the covenant. You will stand firm not because of the sum of your accomplishments, but because of the seal of what I have done. That seal is deeper than every lie, stronger than every wind, more enduring than every thunderclap, and greater than every human prediction. My child, what I am forming in you is not for one season, it is for every season. No coming trial makes me hesitate about you. No upheaval makes me reconsider my promise. No fear makes me change my mind. I have placed on you an unfading mark, and before that mark every future storm will bow, not because you are strong, but because you belong to me. My beloved child, at this point your journey no longer remains at the shore. You have passed through valleys. You have stood in the wind. You have known what it feels like for your soul to shatter and then be rebuilt by my hand. You have seen water flow from places you thought were utterly dry. I felt my breath slip into the cracks. You heard my voice soften regions of your heart you believed would never hold life again. And now I am bringing you to a turning point unlike anything you have known. This is where the headwaters begin, not only around you, but rising from within you. Just as in the vision Ezekiel saw water was flowing from under the threshold of the temple, and the water rose ankle deep, knee deep, waist deep, until it became a river no one could cross. Ezekiel 47. My child, that is what I am opening in you. You are no longer one who merely stands beside the water pointing others to the way. You are becoming the opening flow of restoration. I am not only pouring blessing on you, I am sending blessing with you. Just as the spring at the source does not choose its own path but is appointed by heaven, so the river I have placed within you has its own direction, its own momentum, its own life. You simply have to walk, and the water will make its way. You simply have to obey my voice. and blessing will go before you like soft water wearing down stone, like small streams gathering into a mighty river. There were days when you feared you were not enough, not wise enough, not strong enough, not holy enough for anything of worth to flow out of you. But my beloved child, the stream does not carry its own strength. It carries the strength of its source, and your source is not empty. Your source is not muddied by storms. Your source is not eroded by time. Your source is me. Therefore, the river you bear is not a frail trickle. It is a heavenly current, carrying healing, renewal, life, and creativity from me. Every place you set your foot will feel the air change. Every word you speak will sow seeds of life. Every small act will become a pulse of water guiding others back to the source. My child, imagine your soul as a cracked rock, the place where the first drop of water seeps out after a long season of drought. Each drop is small, yet stronger than you realize. Each thin thread of water is delicate, yet unceasing. And then the ground around you begins to change. Plants begin to grow. Birds return. Other creatures come to rest. And that little drop of yours becomes a stream of blessing from which many will drink and live. You do not need to force yourself to become a river. You only need to flow like a spring at its source. And I will take care of the rest. A spring is not a river, but every great river begins with one. You are the beginning of what I am doing in the lives of those I will send to you. I want you to know that from this moment on, you do not carry only responsibility. You carry the power of blessing, not the power to control, but the power to release life. When you step into dark places, light will not need an introduction. When you enter a room full of wounds, healing will begin even before you speak. When you touch someone who is exhausted, I, myself, will flow through you like cool water. My child, people will not come to you because they need you. They will come because they thirst for me, and I have chosen you as the channel that leads to myself. Stand in the place where I have set you and feel the rising water. Once, it only reached your ankles light, cautious, just enough for you to feel life. Then it rose to your knees, a bending, a quiet surrender. Then it rose to your waist, where you no longer controlled every step. Then it became a mighty river, where you no longer walk but are carried by my current. Let me lead you with that current. Do not fear not knowing where to go. The river always knows the way to the sea. And now I send you forth, not as one who survived, not as one who teaches others how to survive, but as the beginning of blessing, the first sound of a new season, the spring at its source beginning to sing beneath the earth. My child, now you have heard fully what I wanted to say to you. In this season, you were not merely saved from the storm, you were formed to become an unceasing stream of blessing. Everything you have walked through has been gathered by my hand into gentle strength, into wisdom that knows how to guide water, into a heart that can hold peace even in the wind. You no longer walk alone. I go before you as the source, behind you as the shade, beside you as the river that never runs dry. Remember this, you do not merely carry blessing, you are the blessing. And from this day forward, every place you set your foot will become green again. You need only one thing: keep flowing. Thank you for listening to today's message. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so we may continue receiving the living word together, building a steadfast faith, and walking in the boundless love of God. Amen.